Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to another weapon tutorial for Monster Hunter Wilds, and today we're going over Gunlance. Another one of my personal favorite weapons, and it has received so many changes and quality of life for this game. So first off, shelling no longer consumes sharpness, and it is one of the best things that could ever happen to the weapon. Uh, Other than that, the only real new move we've gotten is this one here. So, the way I like to show it off is if you step Y and then press Y and B, you'll go into this multi-worm stake full blast combo, which can end here with you doing 2 quick burst wyvern fires. And that is the new combo that everyone has been talking about for the most part. Because it is, in fact, quite wacky with the amount of damage you can do with it. So, Gunlance is a mix of shelling and poking for those who aren't familiar with the weapon. But it will all depend on the kind of Gunlance you have. So, the one we have here in the beta is a normal Gunlance. It is mostly revolving around doing full burst of shells, which you can see is this. So, after that slam, you can see I fired all of the shells at once, which is what's referred to as full burst. Now, long-styled gun lances, they actually are known for having a higher damage on their worm stake. And what the worm stake is whenever you are attacking a monster and you shoot them, that's right there, it consumes the stake that essentially sticks to the monster and takes a bunch of times before exploding. Now, wide gun lance, which again don't have in the game at the moment, specialized in charged shelling. And so the way charged shelling works is in this game you can just hold down the B button and you charge up your shells one by one before you can release them all at once. That is different from how it was in different iterations of the game, because before you would just charge up one shell at a time, fire it, etc., etc. And the way a lot of people would play that is you go poke, shell, because a lot of the wide gun lances had higher individual shell damage, so you could do a much more broad mix of poking and shelling with it. Whereas I personally have always just played where I go full burst for the most part. But that is just me. And so there's not really a lot to say about Gunlance as far as its overall moveset in a way. So if you're playing a full burst style, most of the time what you're looking for is a chance to do that right there into a full burst, which is the Rising Slash, which is YB, press Y to do overhead slam, press B to do a full burst, reload, find an opportunity to do it again. Or if you were going to be doing it a different way, so poke shelling for instance, you're going poke, shell, poke. But, as I said, now another thing that they added was this right here, where you can shell and directionally move. And so, I'm not sure how poke shelling will actually carry over into this game, but, again, it's what lets you reposition and do a wide sweep, which has a lot of motion to it, which I'm a fan of, because Gunlance has always been a rather slow weapon, and so anything you can do to make it be able to have a little bit more movement and shoot faster, I am all for. So, to go over a little bit about it, so if you hold the block button and you press Y and B, you'll perform that Wyvern's Fire, and if you look below the sharpness meter, you see those 2 different orange blast bullet looking things. One of them is charging up, one of them is ready. That is your Wyvern Fire. So in this game, you have 2 of them you can use back to back before they have to be on cooldown. Normally you only had 1 in the previous games, but now we have 2. It's very nice. The blue arrow drill looking thing is your worm stake. It's also what is consumed whenever you perform your focus strike. You're shoving the worm stake directly into the monster as you hit its focus, its wound. And then all the little bullets that you see are your individual shells. Now, to reload, you pull right trigger, hit B, and you reload. Now, there's two different reloads you have. If you just block and reload, that's a full reload. Whereas if you attack and then do the reload, you will do a quick reload. And the difference of them is the full reload gives you all of your stuff back, your worm steak and all your shells, but the quick reload only gives you shells. And so that is important because of how you want to be doing your attacks. If you don't have the right ammo readied up into your weapon because you haven't reloaded the correct way, then it can mess you up. But with all that said, I think we're good to go and find ourselves a volunteer. And as you can see, we have another brave Chatacabra willing to be our volunteer for this test. And so, yeah. That is the big combo of this weapon, as it currently is. And because of the defense values that Gunlance has, you can sort of be a little bit more risky with it. In the sense of, like, actually going and trying to go for the full combo, even when you don't necessarily have, like, the full opening to do it. But I think it is well worth the risk involved for the damage output that you can get out of it if it all works. Oh, well, accidentally busted his wound. Well, that wasn't intended. Now, something else that I personally really like about Gunlance is that the shells don't really take into account whether or not you're hitting a monster's weak point in its damage. They do the damage they do regardless of really where you're hitting the monster. And I've just always liked that. Because it especially means, like, you can take, and if there's a monster that has, like, a tough hide, the Gunlance can go and attack that part and maybe bust it off for people, like when you're doing group hunts and other things like that. Do you still have a wound on your butt? Thanks, buddy. Well, shall we? Now, you can also, you can do Wyvern's Fire on your own anytime you want. It's just that when you're doing that combo, you have access to, like, a faster one than normal. Which gives you less chance to be interrupted, etc., etc. Can you give me that leg? Thanks. Wow, 3-minute hunt. That might be my personal best for Gunlance. Anyway, and so, yeah, that is how I say to play the current iteration of it. Because full burst is just the way I love to play it, much like the Gunlance main, Mr. Rurikon. I like the booms. We are alike in that particular mindset. And yes, so that is in fact everything I have to say about the Gunlance. Don't think I left anything out. It's, you know, great defense, great offense. It makes booms. What more could you want in a weapon? And so yeah, that is that. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know down in the comment section. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good hunt.